Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. 130 of you already beat me here. So we're excited for this webinar. We've got some big news we're going to share. Big announcement. We've been working on this for a while now, and it's now finally time to share the good deets with you all of Domotz Free. For those of you that don't know Domotz, I'll do a super quick introduction. We are a network monitoring and management company, and we've been around for 10 years. It's actually our 10-year anniversary this year. And ultimately, we want to just provide better visibility for everyone on the devices that are connected and what the health are of those devices and how you can manage them better. And we're going to get into all of that later in a second. But we're very grateful that you're here. And we are recording this. You'll automatically receive the recording at the end of the webinar. And so feel free to find and review anything that was said after the fact. We also want you to participate. And I'm going to, yeah, I saw the comment. That's how you pronounce Domotz. I know. I feel like everyone, even internally, we pronounce it differently. So, whatever floats your boat, go with it. So we want you to participate. And I'm going to actually, encourage you to ask questions throughout. We've got a lot of content we're going to get through today. But we're going to do our best to answer your questions. We've set aside time at the end of the webinar to answer your questions. And so we'll do that our best. And I'm actually going to pose a question to all of you before we start, which is, what is the best thing you've ever got for free in your life? I don't know if Destiny, if you have anything that comes to top of your mind, but I don't know if we'll see if Domotz Free makes the list. Maybe we can at least make the podium of like, top 3 or something. But we'll see.
Well, I'm like a huge educational nut, as everybody knows. So like when I've been at Cisco Live and I've gotten free like certification passes, I'm a geek. It's fine. I'm like, yes, that just saved me money.
Well, you all chime in what the best thing you've got for free was. We'll do a short introduction. So I'm Jace Holyoke. I'm the director of product marketing. A little bit of background on me. I used to work for an MSP, mostly on the sales and marketing side, but also just due to the nature of that world was, screwing in an access point one day or triaging a ticket, helping out with that as well. I've now since moved to the dark side, so don't hold it against me. But now I sell to hopefully all of you. And I'm joined by the big brain in the room, which is Destiny. If you just give us a quick introduction, Destiny.
Hi, everyone. So I was a network engineer first, and then I dove into cybersecurity and information assurance. And so I've actually been in this atmosphere for about 25 years. And I absolutely just love everything to do with IT. I'm a geek. It's fine. I'm hugely passionate about monitoring and managing environments as a whole. So that's kind of like my sweet spot. I've been doing monitoring and management for 20 years. So that is something that I have taken a lot of pride on, and I love solving solutions and helping everybody find like the little tidbits that they need to do in their own environments and understand it better so that you can be more proactive.
Bravo. Thank you for that. And excited to hear more from you. Got a question already. We're monitoring comments from everywhere. So submit your comment on any of the platforms we're streaming to, and we'll see it and answer it. Without further ado, let's dive in the agenda. Like I said, we've got some jam-packed content today. We're going to cover 4 main things today before spending time on Q&A. The first is kind of basic, foundational, but it's a good segue into why we're introducing free, which is what is network monitoring and why is it necessary? And Destiny's going to do kind of a quick hitting presentation on that. And then we're going to get into the details of what is Domotz Free and why are we releasing it, share the story and what's included with Domotz Free. And then Destiny's going to take us into the product and show us what this looks like in practice. How can you benefit from Domotz Free, and what other functionality does Domotz have that can help you with your business and solving problems? And then we'll come back here for a quick recap. We're going to do a quick preview of some product releases that are upcoming, how we're building the product to be better for all of you as well. And then we're going to wrap up with Q&A. So please ask questions. We've set aside about 20 minutes at the end of the webinar to answer the questions, and we can stay after if you want as well. And we also, if there's a ton of questions, we'll spend some time after the webinar responding to you as well. So that's the agenda, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Destiny. Why don't you explain to us Why is network monitoring necessary?
Well, one of the things that we hear a lot of the times is, oh, it's such a nice to have, right? And when we're thinking about network monitoring, I just want to make sure that everyone understands how critical it actually is. When it really comes down to, risks of not having a visibility, I kind of want to walk through some of those key challenges, because a lot of the IT teams face a lot of challenges without proper monitoring in place, and they don't understand it's critical until after the fact. And so one of the things that I like to tell everyone is that even if you have a breach, or if you have a problem, or you have an issue, installing monitoring after is not going to help you solve those problems any faster. It's not going to be able to understand what happened, to be proactive of how did the components actually lead down this hole to actually cause a problem. And so let's talk about some blind spots. So you have some unforeseen disruptions without any kind of a monitoring. IT teams are essentially, you're flying blind, right? And it's like, devices pop up in networks all the time. As we know, there's shadow IT that we are always creeping in, and problems can go unnoticed until it's a huge problem. And I think that that can be very dangerous. And I think that a lot of the time it's only because we have a lack of the visibility, right? And the lack of visibility makes a huge impact when it's unknown. And so I think that's something that we need to focus on when we're talking about, is it really a nice to have, or is it also a criticality that you need to have? And I believe that it definitely is something that you need to have, especially if you're worried about your security, your infrastructure, how everything is working. Is it designed as you've seen? Do you have router loops? Is there things that are happening here? Is the protocols in place and actually working as you are? How do I check my SD-WAN? Is it actually switching like it's supposed to in the orchestration? Like, there's a lot of things, if you don't have visibility, you're making a lot of assumptions on. And so then that brings you into the reactive firefighting. When something finally does break, teams scramble, right? Like, they're scrambling to react, because it's like, we have SLAs, we have things of which that we need to do, which can impact your business, right? So when we talk about cost, is it worth your reputation, and is it worth the time of which that's coming across there to not have monitoring? I'm definitely on the side of no. So it's like, it's always, we don't ever want it to be a surprise. And we also, when we have surprises, that's going to cost your business time and money. And those are things that we always have to think about, which then goes into troubleshooting. When you don't have the right insights, troubleshooting takes a lot longer. It's that needle in the haystack that we're always talking about. And you can spend hours just trying to identify where the problem could even have. And you're chasing down logs, you're piecing together, what went wrong, instead of actually solving the problem that you're aware of. And I think that is something that can definitely help anyone as a business, for an MSP, or at least, when we're talking about for internal IT, when you're the only one that's there, it's like, you can't have hidden doors. You can't have a blind spot. You're not wanting to be a firefighter all the time. It's too stressful. It doesn't allow you to actually strategize how you're helping businesses or prove how you've done these things. So I think troubleshooting, it really shows, especially if I'm paying for an MSP, how fast are you at solving a problem? And more importantly, with monitoring, how proactive are you so I don't see the problem? And I think that's something that we need to think about, as we're going through some of the monitoring. And then it's the outages and the damage, right? Well, we have SLAs. Like, I remember, and I've said this before, like, I've worked for a company before when we were doing networking, and each time that if there was a problem with the fiber and that was coming in, it was very expensive. It was in the six figures, and I'm sure it's more now, a second, right? And it was like, we cannot have downtime. We cannot have these outages. There's different criticalities, and their reputation was on the line. This was cyber as well that was happening. You have to have that insight, and outages are escalated, as we know. So then if you have an outage and you don't have monitoring in place, or a management, or a way to solve a problem through the tool, it goes back to the slowness and the tediness of that actually is happening. And then that can actually drive reputation issues with your MSP. If you're an internal IT, that's downtime. Those are things that are going to be costing you as well. So all of this leads to the same outcome, right? When we talk about this, as we go back it as a nice to have, it actually creates higher costs. So when you don't have it, you're increasing your cost, you're increasing stress, you're less satisfied with how you're handling the business. Your customers can be less satisfied as well. And what Domotz tries to do is, and actually does successfully, right, is it eliminates that, right? Like, you don't have the blind spots, you have the visibility, you're able to make decisions, you can have a strategy in place. And I think that is very vital because that's going to allow you to reduce your risk of costly outages and reduce your business costs while gaining your actual users to be excited about what you're doing, how things are happening, and then maybe deploy more. Or then they have the conversation as well again with other teams. It's like, hey, we were able to use this tool and it actually saved us time, right? And we're actually ahead of the game now.
Awesome. Thank you, Destiny. I thought something really interesting that you said was it's sometimes viewed as and maybe often is the right word, I don't know, is viewed as a nice to have, network monitoring. And we've spent some time with IT professionals to dig a layer deeper in understanding why that is. And the result is not always from a technical perspective. In fact, it's more often that it's a nice to have because most network monitoring solutions aren't built for the SMB and mid-market, and they're more built and priced and designed for the enterprise customers, which leave a lot of SMB and mid-market companies where we live and where we serve primarily unable to fully deploy a network monitoring solution. So we've been around for, like I said, 10 years, and there's really 3 buckets people fit into. One is a lot of businesses in this space, in this market segment, don't use an NMS. Those that do, it's not uncommon to hear of a partial adoption, meaning they're deploying to just a subset of their sites. There's reasons for that we'll get into. But even the companies that are fully adopting an NMS have difficulty realizing the value of it. And after digging in and understanding, like, what are the reasons that lead to this partial adoption or no adoption, we've uncovered a few themes that I want to talk to. So the first being, and maybe appropriately the first, being network monitoring is expensive. This just due to the minimum commitment required on a lot of the tools out there, it leaves a lot of SMBs and mid-market teams unable to fully deploy a network monitoring solution. And that leads to no deployment or a partial deployment of a network monitoring solution, which has its own issues as well. A second theme, and everyone that's here, keep me honest if you relate to these or if there's things not on this list that you think should be added. But a second theme we often hear about is that network monitoring is overly complex. It's very common to hear of within an organization that's using a network monitoring solution to hear of this technician is the expert on this network monitoring tool. And network monitoring is best used when every technician can benefit from the data that we're extracting from that environment. And if there's siloed expertise, one, that can make it difficult to fully adopt the product in general. But 2, it makes it difficult to scale because your technicians need to be efficient. They need to resolve issues as fast as they can. And if they have to add a step along the way of consulting that person that has the siloed expertise, that creates unnecessary delays in the triage. So ultimately, this leads to a lot of SMBs and mid-market teams not monitoring their networks. Now, what are the consequences of this? Destiny spoke to it in detail on the last slide, but if you're responsible for a site and all the devices and the health of those devices in a site, you need to know what is connected there. And if you don't know the hardware that exists there, that causes friction in your support offering as well. It also results in longer triage time. And ultimately, one of the biggest pain points we hear is you're kind of waiting for the end user to tell you there's an issue. And that creates some anxiety on the technician's point of view, who at any given moment could receive a ticket from an end user saying, hey, you have to fix this. Why haven't you fixed this yet? It's always, we all know that it's always like, why haven't you fixed it yet? And then it also creates some friction and frustration from the end user perspective, who's wondering, why am I the one that has to bring up this issue? And then a last theme I wanted to share as well is, even with those that have a network monitoring solution deployed fully, the discovery portion of it is still very difficult. Why is that? Because networks, for one, look very different today than they did 5 or 10 years ago. They're much larger, they're much more expansive. And also the types of devices that are connected are also much larger and much more expansive, which makes discovery and identification of those devices a challenge. So we've met with hundreds of IT professionals to ask them, how can we help you overcome these things? Because it shouldn't be gated to just enterprise users. There's real benefits. There's real necessities for having a network monitoring in place for SMB and mid-market as well. And we ended up conducting a closed beta test and had a lot of feedback and understanding what can we provide to make this easier, to make this more accessible to all of you. And the results led to kind of a thesis statement for this whole release, which is visibility is foundational and 100% necessary. If you're responsible for supporting an environment, you need visibility on everything that's connected to that environment. And that shouldn't be gated behind overly expensive or complex solutions, which is why we're introducing Domotz Free. And I know it's kind of been building up to this, but let me share with you what Domotz Free is. So Domotz Free is discovery in short, but ultimately we are designed to give you that full visibility across every site and every device for free. And there's three main features that fall into our free offering. The first is the detection of the devices across the networks. So if there's a device that's connected, we want to detect that it is connected to the network and surface that information to you, which we do. We go a step further, and our second feature here is not just understanding that a device is connected, but understanding what that device is, identifying the device and its associated properties like the make of the device type, the manufacturer, the model. And we do this by scanning at the layer 2 level, which is a differentiator for us, and the layer 3 level. And we identify the devices by MAC address. So I mentioned on the last slide the difficulties of discovery. We do discovery different, and this is a competitive advantage for us and can be for you as well. And the last feature I want to highlight here is the device state. So we're going to display the real-time device state, whether or not the device is online or offline in real time for every discovered device. This is Domotz Free, so the cost is free. So you are getting this. You can deploy Domotz to unlimited sites and get the discovery, the identification, and the device state for every device connected to every site that you deploy Domotz to. If you are wondering, what is the use case of this? Like, I get the functionality, but how's this actually going to benefit me? Let me tell you a quick story. So meet Rex. Rex, I don't know if Rex is on here or not, but Rex is a technical support specialist. He is a customer of Domotz, and he works at a company called CIO Solutions, which is a managed service provider. They just deployed Domotz to a site that didn't have Domotz before for discovery, for the functionality that's included with free. And he uncovered a lot of hidden hardware that he didn't know existed, including a fully functional switch that was connected to the network, that had devices connected to it downstream. And this switch had been drywalled into the ceiling of one of the rooms in the building at the site that he supports. Now, let's think about life without Domotz in that situation. And if there's an issue with something downstream and the switch is impacted and you don't even know it exists and you can't even find it because it's drywalled into a ceiling, right? That's a very real pain point that Domotz Free can help you uncover. So obviously Domotz identified there's a switch there. We surfaced the topology map and showed the relationship between that switch and their other devices. And Rex could then track it down. So this is just one example of many examples, and Destiny's going to share a few more as well as we dive in. But that visibility is foundational. You need it, and it shouldn't be gated. And that's why we're introducing Domotz Free. So if you're excited about Domotz Free and you want to deploy it, you want to understand how can it, I'm excited. I want to scan the networks. I want to see if I can discover additional devices that I don't know exist. I want to identify those devices. Let me just give you a sneak peek into architecturally how we're able to deliver this. So start at the top. We have this like a trapezoid and all these icons within that represents your network. And you have all these different assets and hardware connected to the network. Domotz is deployed via a collector is what we call it. Also could be known as like a probe into your network. And we have 16 different deployment options, everything ranging from a Windows agent to Linux, to VM. You can deploy it on VMware, to hardware options as well. We have our own appliance that you can go and plug into your router or switch. And so we have a lot of different deployment options. You don't need an agent on every single device. You just deploy one Domotz collector into your network, and it's going to scan that network, and it's going to identify, discover all those devices and surface them in our platform. And from our platform, you can do three things. We've talked about free and what that means. So that's all focused on discovery. We also provide the ability to monitor and manage your technology. Now, what does that mean? Monitoring focuses on understanding the performance of the devices and the health properties associated with devices. And then manage takes it a step further as well. It's not just about discovering the devices and seeing there's an issue by monitoring. We provide you with a suite of features to help you resolve the issues that you're identifying and monitoring as well. So that's an overview of our functionality. We're not designed to necessarily contribute to tech sprawl either. We know that's an issue for a lot of IT teams. So we have a set of really robust integrations that can pipe in data to where your technicians already live and where you're already triaging issues. And you can see a snippet of some of those, but there's many more as well. If you want to look at our website, we go into that in a bit more detail. Okay, I know the purpose of this webinar is free, but we want to be very transparent as well in how we're priced. So that way, you go in, if you're interested in creating an account and you do that, after this webinar, you know exactly what you're getting into. So we've talked about the free visibility on the left-hand side. I want to touch on the paid functionality as well, and Destiny will show some of this as well in product. But one reason I also want to touch on this is because when you create an account with Domotz, you're granted 14 days access to the product and all of the paid functionality for free at unlimited scale. And so it's a good opportunity for you to evaluate some of that functionality as well. So how are we built today? If you're new to Domotz or you used Domotz in the past and you're not using it today, let me speak to this as well, because this might look a little different than what you're used to. So we have per device pricing. So our paid functionality, which falls under that monitoring and manage bucket on the last slide, and specific features would be like SNMP monitoring, alerting and integrations, remote access and power management, API access, custom scripting, configuration management, network diagnostics, et cetera, et cetera. Don't need to list them all, but that is now unlocked at a device level. So we don't specify which devices you need to manage or pay for. It is up to your discretion based on which devices matter to you to monitor and which devices you want to unlock this functionality for. So commonly we see everyone monitoring, all of their networking equipment. Some people like to monitor every device that's discovered. Some people have special use cases where they want to monitor security cameras or printers. It's really up to you. AV equipment, it's totally up to you. You select which devices are important to you and you can pay to manage. Also, you don't have to. We have this free forever option where you can just use it for discovery. You don't even need to enter your credit card or anything. But I wanted to spend just a few minutes here just being transparent. This is how our billing structure is. Now, I also want to spend 45 seconds here because I know we have customers on the call and they're asking, well, how can I benefit from Domotz Free if I'm already a customer? So if you are currently a Domotz customer and you are paying per device, Domotz Free is already included in your subscription, meaning you could be paying for devices at one location, but you can also continue to add additional locations and deploy additional collectors and discover those additional sites for free. For those of you that are grandfathered in in a different pricing model that we no longer offer, which is location-based, Domotz Free is not currently included by default, but there are paths for you to adopt Domotz Free. And the best way to explore those paths is to reach out to our support team and have a conversation, because there are nuances here. We want to make sure you understand all the benefits and all the changes that would facilitate a move or an adoption of Domotz Free. So, all right, it's been a lot of pricing and packaging talk, which it's kind of dense, but that's the purpose of the webinar. We want to introduce Domotz Free. But I'm going to pass it back over to Destiny now, who's going to shift away from just all the numbers talk and going to talk about what does this actually look like in practice. She's going to show you the product and show you how it might benefit you, both from mostly from a free functionality, but also a sneak peek in some of the paid functionality as well.
Mm-hmm. So let me know when you're able to see. There it is. All right. So what I wanted to kind of talk through is service delivery and Domotz, because that's something that we have had a lot of conversations on. And we're not just talking about a piece of software or a set of features. We're talking about a complete process and the way that teams and service providers actually deliver due to, their organizations and for their clients. And service delivery is about consistency, reliability, and the ability to prove, what you're doing makes a difference. So with Domotz, it becomes the backbone of how IT teams can actually provide proactive support rather than just, reacting, that firefighting that we were talking about before. So I've seen a lot of questions that were in there in the comments of like, well, how do you deploy this? How do we do this? And that's so exciting because I want to tell you. And so when you come in, you can sign up for free, as he was saying. Go to the website, hit the trial, be able to do the trial. It comes there. You're going to go to the welcome string. You can add your first collector here. This is how many options you have. Okay. So you're not like, oh, it has to be compatible in just one area, or this is the only thing that I'm going to have the option for. Absolutely not. Domotz, we understand that there's a wide variety of users from MSP and internal IT that need to have different options for deployment. So Windows obviously is a huge one that comes across there. Seen a lot of you Synology folks out there. So I wanted to show you that there's Synology as well. And we also have hardware options. So I seen where somebody was like, hey, what if they're like, they don't have a device for me to install a collector on? What can I do? There's a Domotz box. That's a hardware of which that you can do. You can also have Protectly that will allow you to also be able to monitor. We have virtual, Docker, plethora, right? So as soon as you are able to add a collector, you're able to get that install. That's when you're going to go into the product. And you're going to have, I have one of the Domotz boxes. So I actually have that here. And so that's my collector. And as Jace was saying, when you're on the free version and on the device model, after collector, some people use this for multi-tenancy so that they can get that network visibility. Because when we're talking about end-to-end service delivery, visibility is number one. When you want to talk about CIS control, visibility is number one, right? So when we're talking about cost, security is usually a cost that doesn't get cut, but security is also a foundation that you have to have monitor and visibility. I've seen where somebody else was like, hey, I didn't know I even had this on here. When you deploy and you can actually see these devices that you were not aware of. I mean, it happens more often than I would like to say. And I'm a network person. I used to hate that when I would see things come up and it was like, oh my gosh, did you know that this was attached to your switch? Or somebody's bringing their own switches in and putting them into their laptop so that they can do other things. You need to be aware of that. It's having an impact. It can have an impact on your network, security-wise, user agreements. Like we have to have these discussions. So once I get the collector installed and I'm in Domotz itself, when I go into it, this is the free. We wanted to show you the free that's coming across here. I'm seeing my devices. I've seen somebody else that was like, Fiend. This is exactly like what we were going through there. We're looking at it from the MAC address, as Jason said before. So we're able to get those details of the type, the things of which they were going across there. We understand your devices. We're giving you that insight. We're giving you the visibility. And then when we go into the topology, this is the bread and butter, right? Like this is where it's at. If I am deploying this as an MSP to my clients, or if I am a person who is trying to be like a VCIO and I'm wanting to actually help them with their infrastructure and be able to, strategically plan out the next 15 to 20 months of which that they need to do, I need to have visibility. I need to be aware of the tech stack. I need to understand what they're doing. This allows me out of the box to be able to deploy the collector at different sites, be able to have the visibility of which that I need, be able to set up my topology, be able to then export that to Visio. I can provide them, right, with service automatically out of the door for visibility. And then we can have that conversation. Here's what I see on your network, or here's what I have in my network as an internal IT, right? And then I can be like, hey, I can talk to my director. I can talk to my boss. We need to start laying out some options. Do we need new tech stack? How out of date are we? Where are we going? What is that going to look like? I have a solid data-driven decision that I can make based upon the visibility that I'm seeing right out of being able to set up a collector. So I think this is very important when we want to talk about that, because that segues into how do I actually become proactive? When we're talking about topology, I have that instant reward of like, I know what I'm dealing with. I can have a better conversation. I'm able to make better decisions. But also when you're doing topology, we want to make sure that like you have a router, we have a switch, that layer 3 intel, so we can see the things of which that are hanging off of it to make it more accurate. And then when we get into VLANs, we want to be able to go into our collector. We can set up our VLANs. We can set up this information so that we can actually strategically do our networks and have better conversations. But when we look into this, it's just as simple as I have a Domotz box that's out there. I want to add a collector, add one. We're not, delaying you from doing that, activate it, because we're no longer set on the collector itself. So you're able to see your total managed devices as you see at the top. So if I had 4 collectors here, I could have still 2 managed devices. So we want to make that clear. Deploy them out, segment it, however you're wanting to do this so that you're able to get that visibility. You're able to track. You can use it in inventory so that you can actually then go through your collectors themselves, different organizations. We're setting you up so that you're able to actually make these decisions easier and have some of that service level network visibility. And then when we want to talk about our next thing is proactive monitoring. So that's the first, that's something that I like to do after visibility. So that's part 2 for me, right? Is the proactive monitoring. I need to be able to see a problem before somebody's calling me. How many of you have had someone literally be like, hey, I have a problem right now, and you weren't aware of it? That's not looking great, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, if I'm not proactive, then how am I providing a service level that I feel that is trusted and that the user is going to want? I need to be able to be like, hey, I'm on it. And what I like to do, and I'll talk about it here in a minute though, is like in some of my alerts, when I know it's going to my technicians and I know that something is being worked on and that it'll be viewed in X amount of time, while it's sending me an email, I am having either Domotz itself, or I'm going to have my connection for one of my PSAs or a ticketing system that's going to have in the email, hey, we're on it. We will be with you within X amount of time, because that's what our agreement is. I don't even have to make that phone call. Like, if you start thinking about how monitoring can be an extension of you, that's when you get the value out of monitoring and management. Use it. It's like, if I have an alert that's going off and I already know that I'm being used, go ahead and send that out. Let them know you're on top of it. That increases your reputation. That increases your business profile. And it allows them to be like, okay, we're handled, right? Without them actually calling you to come in through there. And I think that's something that's very important that people don't understand that they can use their monitoring tools for, that I think is something that we could definitely talk about. So when we get into the third one, right, is for alerting and notifications. It doesn't just monitor. We're able to actually then take it a step further. When you get into the device manage mode, how do I connect my PSA tools like ConnectWise, Atera, Halo, things like this that's coming across there? You'll have fewer missed SLAs like I was talking about. You can use your alerting to benefit you. You can tier it out with your integrations. You can also make sure that you have a history of what's going on within here. We have API access on the backside. You're able to do information and use it in your workflows. Let it become an extension of you, and let it also be a actual technician for you. So how I use monitoring management is I like to think of it as an extension of a tech. I want this to be a tech, and I design it. When I sit down with companies to help them understand how to better embrace monitoring, we start with monitoring first before we go into management. I ask critical questions. I'm like, what are you responsible for? What's going to keep you up at night? Why do you have these alerts? Because half of the time when I come into things, there are alerts that are set up out of the box. There are alerts at 80, 90. And I'm sorry, like if you're leaving your stuff at 80 and 90, are you paying attention to the device, and are you being proactive? Because a lot of the time, some of your devices will be at 40%. I don't need to wait until something hits 80 to know something might be wrong. What if it increases by 30%? I mean, like, there's things that we need to think about here, and we need to be in our monitoring tools and making those adjustments so that we can be proactive. Because I don't need to wait until something happens at 80, because if it jumps, I need to know that. What made it jump? I don't need to just think that I can set a monitoring tool and forget it. So these are some of the things that I'm wanting to kind of show throughout here and let you know how these kind of work with you and not against you. So when I'm sitting here and I'm asking, on your alerts, are they actionable? Ask yourself that question. Is this an actionable alert? Then absolutely, I need to make sure that I'm in there, I'm triaging it, I understand it, I'm fully aware of it, it's going to the right people. We understand what we're doing here. After that, that's when I need to actually go, okay, if this informational, where does this go? Because this information can be either fed into telemetry, you can feed this into an observability, you're able to do this with the APIs. You need to be able to understand what's informational that can help you be more proactive if you're seeing things coming across, but what is actionable? Because something that we see is noise. And when you're talking about alerts, noise is a distractor. And noise is not going to allow you to pinpoint a problem and to make your SLAs. So you have to be in your monitoring tools And you have to be able to massage those, triage those, and be able to make them accurate for you. Which then leads me into your remote troubleshooting and things like that. If you didn't know, I seen somebody in there that was like, hey, can this replace an RMM? Can this do this? Can this? Folks, one of the things that I love about this tool is that I'm able to VPN to the tools. I can set up my VPNs. I can use my VPN of which it's through Crosshair. I can go into a device and I can be like, hey, there's a problem. I'm going to get right in there and I'm going to do something about it. We allow you to do that. And that's in the managed part of this. So when you have your managed devices, you can get into there and you're not delivering a truck out, right? It's saving you money, just like that's going across there. I can make management changes. I can do config changes. I can have scripts going across here. This tool allows you to have the customization as well as the integration and scripting capabilities as having an actual tech on site. And I think that's valuable because for me, this is a command center. And as you know, if you've ever followed me before, like I am a huge monitoring and management geek, and I just absolutely love the ability to use it as a command center, get in there, understand environments, especially if they're not mine. If I'm an MSP, I need to understand this. I need to understand what is going on, and I want to have the confidence in my tool to provide the services that I've said that I can provide to those users. And I feel very confident when I have the abilities that I have within Domotz that comes across here. So when we talk about like how all this stuff works and with integrations, we all know about tech stacks, and everybody has their own tech stacks, right? And I am very proud of you for having your tech stacks because look at all the great software integrations that we have. And I think this is something that I wanted to really talk about. This lowers your cost by being able to work with them so that you can actually now have your tech stacks included with your monitoring. I'm able to set up IT Glue. I can get my documentation and help me write this out for them. I have Halo PSA. I have ConnectWise. We have a ton of software integrations that easily will help you to incorporate your tech stack so that you're on top of things. You're using what's existing. And when we were at IT Evolve, I was talking to some companies and they were like, we have a lot of proprietary monitoring, like Cisco has a monitoring tool for them. And, and it's like when we have these proprietary things, they're all over the place, right? And so I have a scattered view of my environment. So one of the things with free that gives you that first layer of visibility that we were talking about at the beginning, I'm able to see everything, right? Like that's kind of the point. I want to be able to see so I can make accurate decisions. Do I want to manage these? Do I not want to manage these to get the other added bonus of the monitoring and management abilities? Is there a way that I can actually present this data to my users if I'm an MSP? Well, that's what this is. It helps you to be more productive. It helps you to actually integrate so that you can start creating those processes so that you're meeting those service level agreements. And again, you're not being called. You're letting them know ahead of time proactively, we're on it. We've got your back. We're moving ahead, right? So when we look at the PSAs, especially, there's no manual entry. You don't have to miss alerts. Your tickets flow into your existing queue. You're tracking, you're managing, and that's where you need to triage, right? Like, how do I make my monitoring better for me so that I can incorporate this with like, what are my ticketing integrations? So that then I can actually be like, it is doing more for me on the automation and workflows. And so on automations and scripts, I mean, come on, like we're able to go through all of these and you can set up your own. You're able to pull in more information, do more things. I've seen somebody like, can I reset? Yes, we can reboot, we can reset. We can do a lot with automation and scripts, and so can you. One of the great things that I like is that obviously with AI as well, you're able to create scripts, put them in here, use scripts. You don't have to have that delay in time or DevOps and everybody to be able to help you out on this. Use the tool. Be able to make your monitoring and your management tool work for you so that the knowledge sharing is throughout. Because as Jay said, it's like, oh, this one person, they're the ones that is taking care of Domotz or taking care of our monitoring solution. We don't want it to be like that. You can create monitoring dashboards that are customized for what you want to care about and how you want to learn it. Create it for your different users. If I'm in firewalls, I only care about the firewall information. Let me do this, right? Like I can create my own custom dashboard that I can look up here and be like, I'm good. I'm not worried about things. Hey, that's looking a little bit like something I should pay attention to. Let me set up an alert so that I can monitor this even better, right? Like these are some of the things. It's less wasted time on manual, oh, I have to go over here and figure something out. It's automatically giving you the data. You're setting up your dashboard. You're able to set the alerts. But if you don't use your monitoring tool to be an extension of you, you're really missing out on the opportunities that you can do with these. There's plenty of BI platforms that you can use too with the API. You're able to incorporate that in if you wanted to take it a step further for dashboards. There's so many different things with the Domotz integrations that ensures that your monitoring is not isolated and it becomes a part of your system, right? It's your ecosystem. I like to compare monitoring and management tools to your health, right? Like if I don't have a baseline, I don't know what's going to happen. There's an anomaly happening. And if I'm not monitoring it, I'm not going to see it. So when you go to your doctor, you get that baseline, you have that information. When you go back in a year or however long, or if you're sick, it's different. You won't know the difference or those anomalies if you're not monitoring at least at a visibility level. You have to be able to see things and understand the environment so that you know if something is wrong. And I think that's something that's very vital. So with these integrations, as well as everything else that I was going through, it's not just another monitoring tool, it's connected. It's indispensable part of your workflows of which that you have. And I really think the criticality is becoming more aware as we can start to see people with like trying to have that observability or being now like with your cyber insurance too. It's not just that you have a monitoring tool. It's, is it up and running? Is everything in it? Are you monitoring accurately for what you're saying before we will allow you to be insured? Or after the fact, if you're getting cybersecurity insurance too, if they come back and are like, you didn't even have this set up and you didn't have that going, it doesn't count. We have to think of things holistically. It's part of your ecosystem. It is a part of your environment as well as your user environments if you're an MSP. And it's something that you can have as a backbone behind you. It's almost like that 500-pound gorilla that they talk about. We're here to support you and we want you to use this. We want you to be in the tool. We need you to be able to understand how you're able to get the usage out of here so that you're covered and your users are covered and they have a strong reputation with you as well as more. I mean, as soon as you're able to cover them and get into more of the configuration managements and get into more information, it's more ability for you to understand, and then you can start setting up your verticals, right? Like in healthcare, I see a lot of this. Over here in my banking, I see a lot of this. Well, now you can use this data to help better monitor and level set and help them grow as a company, not only just you. So that's kind of this is my monitoring with Domotz and how things should come across. I could talk about monitoring all day, but Jace has me on a tight work frame. So I will turn it back over to Jace so that he can discuss more with you.
Thanks, Destiny. Yeah, you are frozen. You might want to switch your camera on and off, give that a shot. Okay. And I'll steal the screen back from you. So we're, from a content perspective, we're about to wrap up. There's just two more things I want to cover. I'm going to let this screen sit here for a second because we've got a lot of questions that came in related to, well, what's included and what's not included. And Destiny covered some free functionality as well as some paid functionality in that presentation. So I'm going to let the screen just sit here for a second so you can see what functionality is included in free and paid. And I'm actually going to answer a few collector-based questions that came in, and then I'll share one more slide and we'll have a more time for Q&A as well. So some of the questions that we got was, is the collector included in the free version? So yes, the collector can be deployed to a site and you can use it for discovery and not have to pay for anything. And then the next one was, do you need an appliance for this to work? So Destiny showed for a second on her screen, we have 16 different deployment options that include both software, like a Windows agent you can install on a Windows device. There's a ton of different other deployment options. We have a hardware deployment option. It is not a requirement though to deploy Domotz. And then someone said Synology requires a paid plan. So we don't charge with the free version that we're talking through today. We're not charging for the collector. You're billed on the devices that you choose to manage, and you want to unlock the functionality that you can see on the screen here today. So what I'd really encourage everyone to do, if you don't have a Domotz account, go to domotz.com and create one and deploy a collector. And as you deploy the collector, you will then be taken to a screen where you can see all the devices that have been discovered. And that'll show you our discovery process. It'll show you our device identification process. You can click into devices to see the properties of those devices. You can see whether that device is currently online or offline, and an inventory of devices that went offline and when they went offline. And as you create your account, you can also unlock that paid functionality for 14 days. You're going to see it. I recommend experimenting with it and taking advantage of those 14 days as well to see if there's benefits for you for that use case too. One other question I'm gonna review before we move on is what is the minimum? If you want to pay, what's the minimum? So it kind of goes back to our thesis that we talked about earlier, which is we believe it's foundational for everyone. And when we talk to technicians, they are saying, yeah, we agree that it's foundational. We want this functionality. But from a business perspective, it's been difficult for them to adopt it due to high minimums, high costs, overly complex product. So our minimum is $15, meaning you have to pay, if you choose to pay, you're paying for 10 devices at a minimum across your whole account. So the minimum, that's the minimum. I saw that question pop up as well. I wanted to address it. Okay, we've talked a lot about about pricing and packaging. That's not the only thing we're focused on here at Domotz. We're focused on making our product better as well. And I want to highlight two specific things we're building right now to improve our product. And the first is role-based access control. So we are currently developing a sophisticated role-based access control system that allows you to define and assign custom roles to limit access and enhance security of your organization. This is going to be upcoming in the near future. And then the other feature I want to just make mention of is device profiles. And we'll be having a webinar on kind of a bigger picture roadmap of what we're working on and more granular detail about these items and others in the near future. But device profiles is also something we're working on that is currently in beta. If you are a customer today and you want to explore joining this beta, I'm going to share a survey in the chat. And if you, like I said, if you're interested, if you want to explore it, we would love to have you a part of it. Fill out that form that I just submitted, and we'll be in touch. But device profiles is all about creating templates to manage devices in bulk and ultimately save you time and prevent drift within your organization and amongst your devices. So a lot more to talk about here, but thought I'd just tack that on at the end because it's been so pricing and packaging heavy. But that's obviously not the main focus of what we're working on here. We want to make the product better for everyone. So with that, I'm going to bring Destiny back on. Destiny, if you might want to unmute. There's a lot of questions. I've been documenting them as you were presenting. So we've got 12 minutes left on the timer. Let's do some rapid fire questions. Destiny, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but what's the relationship between Domotz or just network monitoring in general and an RMM? Like, where do they overlap? Where does one become redundant? What can you speak to that for a little bit?
Well, it kind of depends on the RMM too, though, right? Like, I think that it depends on what type of which that you're using. But basically, so monitoring tools are going to be able to monitor the devices at the stack levels and to be able to monitor, show them everything in which that's going across there. Now, when you get into your RMMs, that's more of your remote management so that you can actually get into the devices, like, you can actually get in and for purposes of like Kaseya or data or like things like that. It's like they'll actually give you functionality to include monitoring, but also activate system management, remote fixes, and do things. The difference with us is that tool, we don't actually have a solid one that's, oh my gosh, we have to have that installed on here or, nothing's going to happen. We have a way to remote into the devices. We have a VPN way to remote into them so that you can actually do upgrades hardware. You can actually do software. You can do implementations. So there is an overlap there. But it's very small because like a lot of the RMMs that we have also start getting into like data backups. It's more of a tech stack itself versus a monitoring and management, like solving solutions that we can do. So we're able to like solve the solutions and get things rolled out and to do things to a point. But an RMM can have a lot of add-ons, and they also have a lot of other information that they can do, such as like database backups, encryption abilities, things like that. So they kind of take it a little bit of a step further. Well, not kind of, they do.
Awesome. Thank you. And then you talked to this as well already, but we had some questions about multi-tenancy and a macro dashboard that shows every site. So once you go into Domotz and you create your account, there is a page called the Explorer page. It's actually the default page when you log in. And from that page, you'll see every single site that you've deployed a Domotz collector to.
Mhm.
And it will display whether that site is online or offline.
Oh, and something fun, like we said, I mean, again, roll out those collectors. Like you can use that to your advantage. I've seen it to where people have rolled out collectors for sites. I have seen where people have been starting to roll out collectors by who's responsible. So if I am on a firewall team in my stack, or if I'm on a GTM LTMs, like, I can put my stacks in there. And so you can play with those as much as you want, because again, you get to choose what you're wanting to pay for to manage, of which that would come across there. You get full visibility. So you can activate your collectors and put those out there and use those as ways for hierarchical systems, for tagging your stuff, for being able to separate, segment. It's endless possibilities of which that are out there. So we wanted to be very clear on that. I mean, it allows you to really understand and own your network, to be honest. Like just own your visibility and be able to have those first steps for you to be strategic and to align with what you're wanting to do with your business goals. Start deploying it and see what you got. And then as you can see it, then that's when you can make better data-driven decisions.
Awesome. Let's see. We had another question about, can Domotz alert on new added devices? I think I can answer this one. The answer is yes. We have the ability to alert on new devices as they connect to your network. And I'm going to take this a step further and reference back to something we chatted about earlier in the presentation, which is how we do our device identification. Not uncommon for devices to switch IP addresses. And because we're identifying devices by the MAC address, if that device, with other solutions in the market, if that device is only identified by the IP address and then it switches IP address, you can get a lot of false positive alerts that that is a new device, when in fact it's the same device, just on a different IP address.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to avoid that because of how we do our discovery and identification. So the answer is yes, we can alert on added devices is the short answer, but I thought I'd add a little flair on it. Domotz flair. Destiny, can you speak to the Windows-based collector? There was a question about asking if it's resource intensive.
It's not. So, I mean, and you can totally monitor it. So, I mean, that is something that I like to do is as soon as I roll out a collector, I want to also monitor what it's on. So if you have a hardware, obviously that's easy. But if I have mine on a Windows right now, and I use that as a monitoring one of which that I see, and I have not seen traffic that's out of sorts. I have not seen resource intensive at all. Now, let me be clear, with any monitoring system, when you start using SNMP and you're polling, or if you're pinging or doing, we know that they're very small. Depending on your complexity of your network and what you're doing, like if you're doing a lot of scripts integrations and things like that, that's when you're going to start seeing it to go up. But again, if you're monitoring, right, you're seeing that proactively so that you can strategically know what you're doing. And that's for any monitoring tool. That's across the board. I suggest that for anybody. Like that's something that you can do so that you can also plan ahead for if I need to put collectors on different devices, if I need to do things, if you have a very complex, larger environment.
We also had a question on where can I see a feature comparison between free and paid functionality? That is on our website today. So if you go to domotz.com, specifically on our pricing page, you'll see a breakdown of what's included with free and what's paid functionality. So if you want to dive in or refresh that. Also, the recording, we go through it as well. We have a few slides on it, and like I said, the email, we will email the recording at the end of the webinar automatically. So yeah, okay, so a few more questions that coming in. Keep them coming, we're around, so feel free to keep them coming. One that just came in is we're currently using Avik. Will this complement or replace Avik? Destiny worked at Avik, so she can probably answer this question, but I think in general, we compete in the network monitoring space, and in the network monitoring space, names you'll commonly hear are Avik, Logic Monitor, PRTG. There's others as well. There's open source alternatives. And so we compete in that space. And so our answer will always be yes, we can replace any of those solutions. Domotz operates and delivers the same functionality. So that's the short answer. But if you want to get in a granular basis and understand where what are the feature differences, where are the trade-offs, et cetera, we're happy to have that conversation with our sales team, and you can get a hold of them via our website as well.
So I see a question in there. It says reposting the question: when installing the Windows-based collector, can you install it on more? I'm assuming you're meaning on more than which that you want to do. You can add collectors and put them out there for whatever you're wanting to do there. So that's something of which that you can do. So I just wanted to kind of to make sure that you understood. Go ahead.
So I think the question, I'm remembering if this is the same individual that posted earlier. Oh yeah, here we go. Can you install it on multiple devices? Like, can you install the collector on multiple devices for redundancy purposes?
Yeah. I mean, you can install this on multiple devices of which that you're wanting to do. That's definitely something that you can do. A lot of people will also install them on, like, say if you have an East Coast, West Coast data centers that's coming across there, monitoring the same. That way you can actually see the topology and how if it's actually expected, but then you also have redundancy. So if you're trying to see if you're on two different sides, like say if you're AWS users too, using East Coast, West Coast, you can do it that way.
Awesome. So we've had a few questions that came up as well, just as related to other competitors. I'm going to post an email in this chat, which is sales@domotz.com. And if you want to have a conversation about sales, like if you're using PRTG or Aavik, I know other names came up as well, and you want to understand what does the process look like for switching to Domotz, I recommend reaching out to our sales team, and they can help guide you through that conversation and understand what you're trying to accomplish and how you might get it done with Domotz. So we can certainly have those conversations. Would love to do that on a one-on-one basis with our sales team.
And I wanted to touch on some things because I've seen people, I mean, there's so many questions, are just fantastic, but I just wanted to touch on it. If you are using a hardware of like Domotz, you do not have to, because I've seen somebody, do I have to have hardware? No, you absolutely do not have to. But if you are using the hardware, you are able to pull from that hardware so that you're able to do that, which is the agent list that I've seen somebody say, like, you know, other people can do agent lists. Well, just to let you know, it's kind of the same concept, right? If I have a hardware box, which I have, and then I'm able to pull using SNMP, that is considered agentless. Me being a networker and IT stack, everything is agent. SNMP still has to be enabled. It is an agent type, but I know that a lot of industry out there says it's agentless when using SNMP. Take it for what it will, but I'm just letting you know that you can use a Domotz box, and that will allow you to pull these devices. You do not have to have a collector on everything that you're monitoring. So I wanted to separate that and make sure that you knew that. The collector is your source. That's going to be your ground zero home base to be able to go out and use SNMP API calls and to be able to do that to your environment of which that you're wanting it to be in. You're able to set up VLAN so that you're able to see those layer 2, layer 3, as Jace was talking about, that we're able to see. So that opens up the visibility. But I just wanted to kind of clarify some of those options. You do not have to put a collector on everything to be able to monitor it. You can use a hardware box to monitor. You can also put a collector on a server that you have within an environment so that it can go out and monitor.
All right. We've had a few other questions come in from customers that are on the grandfathered plan. Again, I want to just direct you to our support team. You can chat with them in product, or you can email support@domotz.com. And the reason for that is because not all grandfathered plans are created equal, and it's better to have that conversation one-on-one with you to understand, first of all, what does your subscription look like today, and what are the pros and cons of switching. So for those of you that are asking, again, I'll just direct you to our support team. Ultimately, we want to put you in the best position possible, and we'll make it happen. So just reach out to our team, and we'll take care of you. If I have no hardware, where do I put the agent on a network? Server, question mark?
Yeah, you can put it on a server. Absolutely. You can also, as we were showing you, like you can use Netgear devices. You can use Docker. There's so many different options that you can use that allows you to put that setup in there. So you do not have to have the hardware whatsoever. Like some people put it on their laptops if they're just trying it out. You can also put it on to your server that you have within an environment. You can use a Docker, AWS environment, VMs, things like that. So that's definitely what you can use. Plenty of options. Explore them.
All right. Selfishly, I'm just going to show this comment until the conclusion of the webinar. Thank you, Daryl, for saying that. Let's touch on this one. John asked a good question. Will the discovery detect VLANs?
Yes. Absolutely. And you can set these up. So you can also go into your collector and set up more VLANs so you can have network segmentation as well. And so that you can define those, and then you're able to use those better for like in your inventory, your monitoring dashboards, as well as what you're monitoring on if you're wanting to segment on different SNMP credentials, API, SSH, things like that. So we're absolutely able to see the VLANs.
All right. We're right at the top of the hour. I'll take one more question if someone's got one. Here we go. We got one. Carlos, when you use topology built by Domotz, it is hard to use as a diagram because of having some links with bad topology. Do you have in the roadmap something for helping with this issue?
Yes, so we do. And on top of that, we also have a resource of which that Jace put out on a guide of how to improve your topology for the way that it looks. And it does cover some of these links. So it walks you through a better setup of making sure that you're using the topology from the actual collector correctly so that you can actually hit that layer 3 device. And if you don't have layer 3, that's fine too. But I'm just saying like your layer 3 so that you can actually see the hangoffs correctly, and then how to actually bridge those out, and especially with VLAN setup as well, that's in there. So we have a resource that's now a guide that's out there that can help you. You can also search us on our knowledge base, but we also on the inside internally are working on topology improvements so that we can better visualize some of that information and have out of the box features so that you can actually kind of change that around.
Here's a good question too. For a Wi-Fi only Unify based network, so we're talking cloud network basically, where there's no endpoints, what would be the best case for a collector?
So that would, I would honestly, I mean, you can put up an actual hardware device within there. If you have a VM, if you wanted to scroll that up in the cloud, you can do it that way. So you can do cloud and monitoring as well from there. So there's many different ways that you're able to go through there, even if you don't have the endpoints that you're trying to do on the WLAN.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I think we'll wrap it up. You'll receive the recording probably within the hour of this webinar concluding. So feel free to review. If you do need any help, we're here. Reach out to support, create your account. You can chat with support and product. You can reach out to us via email. We have a great sales team who wants to help out if you want to have that conversation. We're really grateful for you all being here, and we hope that you'll join us next time. We're going to have some more content coming out in the very near future, and we're all here to support you and help you have better visibility and better monitoring and management of your technology. So hopefully we'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.